everybody. This is Federico Eriksson from Five Little Stones. Yet another episode of my interviews and chats with very interesting people. Today, I have the pleasure of having Maggie Clark join me, and she's going to share a little bit about herself, about what she does, and a little bit of background on her. She's actually the host to the Psychic Evolution podcast, and she is part of some amazing interactions and projects. And without further ado, Maggie, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us and
Thank
for
you
all
so
the things
much.
that you're going to share with us. Can you please start by letting us know who you are, what you do, and give us all the goods?
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me. This is always an honor and a pleasure to be in your presence. So thank you. Um, so what do I do? Gosh, I have so many hats to wear. So I'm really focusing on building Psychic Evolution, which is a podcast that my husband and I have together. And it's all to help like people that are spiritually awakening to develop their mediumship and their psychic abilities. And so I'm really passionate about teaching. If I could do anything, I would just want to share everything in my head with every person on the planet, because I love to give people information and wisdom and keys that unlock who they are inside of themselves. The keys of transformation, the keys to unlock levels of consciousness, the keys to the universe, whatever that might be. And we all have these beautiful keys inside of us. We just have to learn where they are and what doors do they open. So I'm super passionate about teaching. I am also a spiritual coach and a healer. I have a huge background in metaphysics. So I was lucky enough to be able to apprentice with a professional psychic and astrologer for 16 years. So I have a huge background in astrology and tarot. And I think tarot is one of my more favorite mediums because the cards just never lie. They just tell a nice story. And so that's always fun. And I incorporated spiritual coaching into my practice probably about, oh gosh, it's been a really long time, probably for over 25 years, because I knew that I knew a little bit more than people that were asking me questions. And so over time, I was able to really develop a coaching protocol for people to take their own spiritual belief systems and make them work in their everyday life. Instead of separating, this is my spiritual life and this is my physical life. I'm like, no, it's all one. So that's another part of my practice. In 2011, I decided to add on some extra healing modalities. I'd been doing a lot of remote healing before that. That's where I started, really working with the chakra system and being able to send and focus energy remotely. But in 2011, I tacked on Jinshin Jitsu, which is a Japanese healing art to balance the life energy in the body. And soon after that, I added cranial sacral therapy, which helps work with the nervous system and the cranial nerves, and it's super relaxing. And of course, because I love animals, I also tacked on canine massage and Jinshin Jitsu for animals, because those are just one thing that just allows you to interact with animals in a different way. So that in a nutshell is basically what I do and where I come from. So
Well, thank you. That is amazing. And first of all, wow. And I think we need to have an episode for each of those topics because those sound very interesting. I know we all like dogs, and we want to know about that puppy massage or whatever it is, because I think I do that to my dog, but maybe I'm not doing it right. And it's interesting that there are all these venues and these areas that you can learn and just go deeper in knowledge and such. But something that I'd like to ask you is, what was your experience? Because I'm assuming you weren't, from one day to the next suddenly like, oh, here I am. I know all these things. I do all these things, and yesterday I didn't. Funny how that works. I assume there's a process. Where or when did you first realize that these things interest you, or that you had a gift or a talent, and what happened since then?
I had two very profound experiences. One when I was 19, and I had a friend that had a deck of tarot cards, and she brought them. We were at a park and she brought them, and I was like, what are these? Like, I need these in my life. This is amazing. I had a huge draw and affinity to the tarot cards. So that was like the first experience. Shortly after, I received a soul reading from who became my mentor, and it transformed my life forever. Like, I was a college student, I was studying, biology. I'm great in school. I was headed on. I was going to go be a veterinarian and, do the career path that we were all fed. Like, this is what you're supposed to do to be successful. And I was like, oh, this is amazing. And that reading transformed my life. Like, overnight, I realized that my spiritual life was way more important. And I didn't even know I had one. I didn't have a language for it. I didn't have anything. And when I was introduced to the reason why I was here through a reading, I was like, well, now I've got to get to be about doing what I'm here to do. Like, I don't need to do all the rest of the stuff. Like, it was so encompassing and so all important to me. So that was like one of the major experiences that just opened up my eyes, flashes of like, whoa, everything that you feel deep inside, but you don't even know what you feel, woke up inside of me. And all of a sudden I was like, I have a language for it. I know what this is. It's connected to my soul. It's connected to my purpose. I didn't know what any of those things really were before that. But when I heard what my teacher had to say, he became my teacher. He was a complete stranger at the time. I was like, it's all true. Like, everything you said is all true. And it was amazing. It was just so profound, so transformative, because it reached directly into my heart, directly into the core of who I was, and just kind of shook me up and said, wake up, Maggie. There is more to life. And I was like, yes. And so that was like a really intense experience. And, luckily enough, like a couple months right before I had this reading, I accidentally awakened my Kundalini as well. And so I had a couple really profound experiences back to back. That was a intense experience where I was just learning about, like, received a couple books about energy in the body and how to cultivate your energy. And so I was working with some of the exercises, and I fell asleep, and I had a huge visit from my soul essence, who clasped my hands, and I went like this, and she goes, oh no, right hand to give, left hand to receive. And she put my hands in a certain position, took my hands in her hands, and I had this jolt of like energy coursing through my body. It felt electric. It felt like lightning. And I was just like stunned. And it was just like my soul came to me and woke my energy up like that. When I woke up, because I was kind of in a weird, I now know it's the astral plane. I had no idea what it was before. When I woke up, I could open my eyes, but I couldn't move them, and I couldn't speak, and I was paralyzed. And I was like, what the heck is happening? I was so scared. And after what seemed to be about 5 or 10 minutes, I was finally able to move my body, and I just started shaking. I was crying. I was like, oh my God, that was so crazy, so cool, and so scary. And I knew, like, at the time, like, I was like, okay, I really can't be messing around with these things if I don't know what they are. And so a couple months after that, I met my teacher, who had also gone through the process of awakening his Kundalini years prior. So I had someone to teach me all these things that were just like amazing. And it's interesting. We always question, like, where will I ever find a teacher like that? Well, he ended up being my neighbor, right? Who would have thunk? The universe just got together and said, let's see how this happens. We'll just move you here and shuffle you here. And it was at a point in my life where up until this awakening process happened, I thought my life was perfect. I thought I had the perfect childhood. Everything was fine. I was just plodding down this path. And when I woke up, I realized, whoa, okay, I have energy, I have issues, lots of issues that I didn't even, wasn't really aware of. And I had interests that I didn't even know existed, and my spiritual life just became, that was it. That was like, I'm ready, let's just move forward. And that's what happened.
It's interesting to hear that immediately when you encountered your spirituality, it immediately made you realize that's who you are and that's what you want to do. Because I know for a lot of people, they may have that experience, but for others, it's more of, wow, well, there's this spirituality or a spiritual part of me, but I don't have time because I'm busy at work or kids or school or just watching TV, whatever it may be. And they put it either to the side for different reasons. One could be because, lifestyle, occupation. We are all sometimes so busy that we need more hours in our day. So it's semi-valid reason, but there could be other reasons like ignorance. How do I start? Like I know this exists, but just like you mentioned, who's going to teach me? How am I going to go about this path? Like I don't want to do it alone or not knowing what I'm doing. And I think of me trying to fix the fuse box. If I don't know what I'm doing, I'm not putting my hands in there at all. So that could be the reaction of many, or it could be a fear, or denial, because it's easier to say, nah, it's just my imagination, or nah, it's a coincidence, or whatever label we want to use just to get out of the responsibility of being ourselves and discovering the reality that's right in front of us. Um, so, what do you think would be some good advice for those people? And I'll start off by saying something that you already mentioned is if you don't know who's going to teach you, how do I start? Like there's a saying, when the student is ready, the master appears. So whenever you want to learn, the universe, God, your guides will figure it out and get you in touch with the people that you need to get in touch to learn and keep growing. So, in that sense, what do you think would be, or what advice would you have for any of those people that might be struggling on realizing or accepting or choosing to become who they truly are?
Well, seeing that your show is Five Little Stones, I'll give you five little stones, okay, to
Love it.
you. Absolutely. So, and you mentioned the first one, which was responsibility. I was, I think, 19, 20 years old, right around that time when I woke up and when all these experiences happened. And at that stage of my life, I was young. I had an avid social life. I like to party. I like to do things that I probably shouldn't have been doing. Um, and it takes a ton. The first stone, I would say, is responsibility. At some point, you have to look at yourself and be like, all right, I need to take responsibility for my life. Yes, I've been fed that this is my path. I'm supposed to go to college. I'm supposed to be a good girl. I'm supposed to have a career. I'm supposed to make money. This is what's going to give me success and fulfillment and XYZ. And at some point, I just didn't buy it anymore, because I was more concerned about how can I be responsible for why I'm here. And responsibility meant so much to me for fulfilling my purpose. And it was definitely a soul calling, but when we get curious about things, we might dabble in this and dabble in that. But when we actually get serious about integrating a spiritual life, it does take responsibility. You have to be responsible for what's in front of you. And it's not always pretty. What I saw in front of me when I started was, whoa, I have issues. I really thought I was this altruistic being who could love unconditionally because I believed it in my head. And I discovered in my heart, and a very interesting relationship that didn't go so well, that it wasn't true. And I had to look at my reactions. I had to look at where I had issues, where I might have been possessive or jealous or something from a fear based. And I realized I had fear. And as you know, I went from thinking I was invincible and life was perfect to, oh my gosh, like I'm a mess. Like I've got some issues to deal with. So the first level of responsibility wasn't necessarily to my spiritual path. I made that responsibility to overcoming fear. Okay. And then in turn, the next stone that came was a commitment. So responsibility was the first stone, saying I got to take responsibility for my reactions. And all my reactions are fear-based. And then the next one was commitment. I'm going to be committed to myself to overcome my fear so I can live in a place of unconditional love and hold that vibe and not just think about it, but feel it. And so this is one of the things that I really take into my coaching is that you have to start with whatever experiences are granted, but sometimes you got to start with the ugly things, the reasons why we react, why we're afraid. And then in turn, they guide you into well, how do you go about being committed to something so that you can learn how to overcome those fears and really grow into a spiritual being. The problem with spirituality is that we hear a concept like unconditional love and like, absolutely, I believe in unconditional love. That's the only kind of love there is. And I am living unconditional love. And then the next time my boyfriend pissed me off and I was all mad about it, I was like, whoa, that's not an example of unconditional love. Like that's really woo, and realizing I was a hypocrite, but not a conscious hypocrite. I just was one. And once you realize that, the work that it takes is a commitment and a responsibility to adhere and to tune into a different vibration, one that you really believe that's possible. And somewhere inside of you know it's possible, but you have to get through your own garbage and clean up your own life a little bit. And it doesn't have to mean it takes 20 years, though it can with some projects. But what it means is that you'll do whatever it takes, and it doesn't matter how long it takes, because you've accepted the responsibility and you've made the commitment. So those are my first two stones that help defeat, any adversity to a spiritual path.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing that insight. Now, you mentioned tarot, and that's what really hooked you and got you interested in learning about all this other stuff. Tell us a little bit about that. First of all, I'm familiar with the cards, and I've been to some bookstores or stores that they sell an amazing array of cards. And when I see all of them, if I were to buy one, I'm like, I don't know. This one has awesome looking angels. These ones have real cute animals, or these ones, how do you choose and how do you get started? How do you learn? Because I know a lot of people are really interested in that particular field, and it interests me, but I'm not the one to read the tarot. I haven't done it. So what would you tell somebody that might be watching us right now? How can they get started on learning how to properly do it? And because I think that's an important word, properly, because I can probably do it, but not properly.
Well, I don't believe in too many rules, okay, because we're following passion, we're following our heart. So properly is, I don't know. There's lots of different ways, but I will say it's important to know that a tarot deck is different than an oracle deck. So a tarot deck has a structure. It's 78 cards, and you have, 12 cards, 14 cards of a suit and 22 major arcana. So you have 4 suits, which is 56 cards, and then 22 major arcana. So it creates a deck of 78 cards, and it all has pretty much the same cards. Now, the artwork is totally up to interpretation. So you can get fuzzy animals, you can get moons, you can get goddesses or gods or Egyptian, or, you can go any kind of deck that you like, but it will follow a system of 78 cards. An oracle deck can be any amount of cards, and it's all interpretive. Okay, it's just someone's creation. of inspiring messages. Sometimes that's channeled, if you get a deck of like angels and there's 44 cards in that deck, then you know that you're dealing with an oracle card. And that's someone's interpretation about the angelic realm and delivering messages. Now, both types of decks are very valuable when you're learning about yourself and you want to learn, how do I do this? And you want to be motivated, you want to be inspired, you want to get messages from your guides. What it does is it's a tool that bridges between, your spirit team, your guides, or the universe, whatever that is, the energy that's present, and your conscious mind. It's just a bridge. So the more that you use a deck, the more that you are bridging between that super conscious mind and the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. So it just acts as a bridge so we can flow energy and information and messages back and forth. The tarot card, to get started with tarot cards, I love taking classes. So I obviously have a video class, a whole online video series on my website. So that's one place that you can go if you want to dive in. There's a lot of books that you can check out too. I do prefer a deck by Pamela Eakins called Tarot the Spirit for people that are just starting out, because it's really friendly. The messages are very positive. It is based on the Kabbalah underneath it all, but it's a really great place to start for a beginner. A lot of times people start with the Rider-Waite deck, and then there's almost every book that's written about the tarot that doesn't come with a deck accompanying it will be based off of the Rider-Waite, because it's the most popular deck that has been here for like a century. And so that deck, I find the pictures a little bit boring, but you can use any book with any tarot deck. So you don't have to stick with just one deck. Some of the authors that I prefer in learning the tarot is I find that if you learn the esoteric wisdom, you'll have a better foundation overall about everyday life. So I like Paul Foster Case. Anything he writes is like gold to me. He's amazing. I love Barbara Walker for the history of the tarot. She has a great understanding of the history and did a ton of research. And for symbolism, I do like Living the Tarot by Amber Gianti. And so I have a lot of book recommendations. Anything that Rachel Pollack writes is also very good. And these are all books you can find on Amazon. So you can start by just like checking out, what do these cards mean? And what is this deck all about? I like to break down my teaching of the tarot to make it super simple for people and break it down so that they can learn, okay, there's numbers in the tarot. Every card has a number. There's elements in the tarot for the 4 suits. So you have 9 numbers, you have 4 suits, and then you have archetype images. So instead of memorizing 78 cards, you can learn a system of, if it resonates with this number, it has this vibration. If it resonates with this suit, which has an elemental force underneath it, it resonates with that vibration. It's almost like putting the pieces of the puzzle together. And then the more that you use these cards, like I always recommend every day, but the more that you use them, you familiarize yourself with the cards. I always recommend people do a reading for themselves every day, and then do the reading in the morning, look at it at the end of the night, and then you can see what happened in your day. And then your day will unfold the relationship that the cards have. And so it kind of gives you a nice, even if it doesn't make sense at the time, somewhere in your system, your Solodex, you're going to register that, I had that card when I was feeling this way, and I had this card when I was feeling this way. So I'm big on using these tools for yourself so that you learn about who you are, and you can learn about the cards and the energy that's present. And then when you decide you want to do readings for other people, you already have your own experience with it. It really helps quite a bit. So.
Oh, and hearing you explain it, I feel like I understand it and I can do it.
It's very easy.
And also you make it sound easy because probably you have really good understanding of the system and the cards and your own personal experience. So that's always easier to explain. And then you do it in very easy to understand words. So thank you. I'm actually excited now about tarot a little bit more than I was a few minutes ago. And I'm curious, where does it come from? Because you spoke a little bit about one of the books, talks about the history. Don't take us through centuries of history, but just for our common knowledge, what can we say that originated this, or what do we know?
So we don't know lots of for sure's of where it all originates. There's speculation, of course. So the ancient speculation is that it comes from Egypt about 6,000 years ago, when Thoth, which was Hermes Trismegistus, he was an ancient philosopher. It was said that he basically knew all the ancient mysteries from Atlantis and Lemuria, and he was able to actually impart a lot of that information. So some of the information in the tarot we see from the Hermetic principles that he taught and from a lot of his work with the Emerald tablet. And so that's part of where we think it came from. Now, interestingly enough, so there's a couple theories. In Asia at the time, Asia was really big on taking their religion and their philosophy and using games with it. So putting it in a card game or dice or some kind of like games. So when things started trickling into Europe from the Orient, they found these games and were like, whoa, look, you can take a belief system. And then this was the way that they taught people, and kind of drilled it in people's heads. Like, this is what you can, this is how you can play the game, but this is also related to what you're going to value, which is the religion at the time. So there's a little bit of influence of that coming in from the East. And then there was old decks of playing cards in Italy. I think they were called the Tarocchi cards. And so they have some of the ancient archetype images that the tarot actually still has today. So there was a couple things that happened when the Renaissance took over. All the beautiful images that we see with some of the major arcana cards were paintings, and they were basically depicting these archetype images that, were passed down. So the Pope was the Hierophant and the Emperor was the king, and so it was very easy for them to put this into paintings and drawings and use that archetype imagery to impart the more foundational spiritual information underneath. Now, you have to remember, at the time when this was all occurring, we were dealing with the plague, we were dealing with Inquisition, we were dealing with Christianity, like really not allowing people to have a voice and squashing people down. So all the cards that were in existence that were the foundation of the tarot actually were abolished. They were banned in Europe because of the Inquisition. If you were caught having them, you were burned or guillotined or whatever it might have looked like at the time. And so these cards, it's assumed that they went into what's called a normal playing card deck so that people could still practice divination. And it just looked like a card game. So it's assumed that the 52 card playing deck was very similar to the 56 cards that you have in the minor arcana of the tarot. The only difference is the jokers made their way into tarot, but within every suit, not just two jokers. Okay. So this is how the tarot kind of was able to survive the test of time, is they could do divination with a deck of cards and not be, ostracized or even killed for it. And so the tarot has roots, like I said, a little bit of influence from Asia of putting their religion, their divination into stones and into cards, things like that. You have the ancient playing card deck that people used for divination. Okay. And then you had all the beautiful archetype images that came from the Renaissance that are still used today on cards. So it came from a lot of that time period between the late 1300s and pretty much by 1500, everything had been banned. Now, in the late 19th century, what was his name? I'm trying to remember his name. I can't think of it off the top of my head. But was it Levi? I think his name was Levi. Can't remember his last name, but he wrote a book that was published that talked about the tarot and brought the tarot into light. And this is something, this book was studied by the Golden Dawn in the early 1900s, studied by everyone. And then in the early 1900s, by about 1920, they had created this beautiful deck. The man called Rider and Waite, they got together and they created the Rider Waite Tarot deck, which is still the most popular deck to this day, with the most copies sold. And a woman named Pamela Smith Coleman actually did the artwork for the deck. And they based it off of a lot of these texts from the late 1900s that were, you know, up and coming and finally coming out in Europe, you know, that now that it could. So that's basically where it all kind of started. Now, tarot from the early 1900s to now hasn't really changed too much. That 78 card deck that was made by Rider and Waite in the early 1900s is what we base every tarot deck on now. And what they incorporated was a plethora of information, like Manly P. Hall, Paul Foster Case, a lot of the old philosophers from the early 1900s really had a hand in interpreting, you know, the tarot and really making it what it is today. So they took a lot of this ancient wisdom, whether it was from Egypt, whether it was what they were studying in Europe in the late 1900s, and they really put it together. And it was a huge spiritualist movement that really brought the tarot out for not only for divination, but just for self-awareness as well.
That's very interesting. Thank you for sharing a little bit of the story.
Yeah.
But you mentioned that you have some lessons on your website. So first of all, we want your website. So let it,
Okay.
How does that work? And how can a person pursue learning that? If you give classes, lessons, besides the website, any one-on-ones, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so my website's super easy. It's tarotevolution.net. And there's a couple beginner classes that are free if you want to download them. And then after that, it just kind of breaks down the numbers and the elements. After that, there's a whole video series. It's about maybe 7 classes total. Little spreads that you can learn to help you practice, examples of spreads so people can see how it actually looks and it's done. All the classes are, after the beginner ones, they're about an hour long, anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour and 15 minutes. And it goes through all the cards. It opens up the system. The beginner classes open up the system that I teach through, and then the class itself is just like a plethora. So once you sign up, you basically become a member of my website. You can log in, you can stream those videos anytime. They're always there. You can go through them a couple of times. And it's just a great way to start. Sometimes I do offer live classes. I haven't in a while. I was teaching so many of them. I was like, I'm just going to do this video class so that everyone can learn that way. So once in a while, I have a live class or a class on Zoom. A lot of times I do take students who want to learn. There's private mentorship available. So if you wanted to really learn the cards and have one-on-one training, I do that as well. So.
Thank you. And I'm assuming that through your website as well, that they can contact you and schedule that.
Absolutely.
Now, on that note, do you also have availability? Because I know a lot of people that are watching right now, they would be interested in learning, but I know there's the other group of people that have no interest in learning, but they want the readings. So do you offer any private readings for tarot or whatnot? And how does that work? Just through your website as well, or is it a different system?
No, it's the same. It all goes to the website. I offer readings. I offer astrological consultations. I offer the spiritual coaching. I do offer some remote healing as well for people. So that's pretty much all on the website. And you can kind of look around and see if you want to learn about all the different things that I do. It seems like a lot, but there's a lot of information on there as well, just to kind of, what's Jin Shin Jitsu? That'll be on there too. You can read about it. So.
Yeah, like, do I need chopsticks or a fork for that? That's how, how I feel like I definitely need to read up on.
It's actually super cool. Everyone thinks it's a martial art when I say it
Yeah.
because it just sounds like jujitsu. But Jin, it's a Japanese. So Jin means the man of knowing and compassion. Shin means the creator, and jutsu means the art. So Jin Shin Jitsu is the art of the creator expressed in the man of knowing and compassion. And it's a super beautiful healing modality that is all inclusive of relationships, including astrology, including like the different elements, numbers, depths, mathematics. It's fantastic.
It does sound interesting. And yeah, what went to my mind is, oh, you're choking people out with jujitsu. My kids, they were in jujitsu classes, so I know a little bit. I studied a while back. So that's what immediately went to my mind. Oh, they're breaking people's arms. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you do mention that you offer coachings as well. And to me, coaching is a buzzword. Everybody is a coach or a life coach or whatever, but I don't think I understand exactly what that consists of, because although it's very popular and maybe it's just me not keeping up with the times, but what does that look like? What does it entail? Because to me, coaching is like, my brain takes me to the Rocky movies, and you have the coach on the side, like, Rocky. But can you illuminate me and educate me on how this works and how many of our viewers could take advantage of those services?
So the coaching I do is very much a spiritual coaching. So if you were to say, you know what, I believe in unconditional love, but I don't always feel that way. How do I get there? I'd be like, all right, let's break it down. Let's figure out where you're not feeling that. And let's figure out what your issues are. Let's find tools and techniques so that you can apply whatever you need to apply to overcome that, to return back to what it is you really believe. So what I found in this world is that we all have these huge hearts, and we all want to love, and we all want to be like transcendental and completely enlightened. Well, enlightenment is a process. It's a process of self-discovery. And so the coaching I do is a process of self-discovery. I just guide you into yourself, basically. You tell me what you believe, why you believe it, if it helps you or if it hurts you. And then we figure out a way to really get you to resonate with information, wisdom, and techniques to integrate the frequencies that you want to pull into your life. So at times, coaching could be about manifestation. It could be about healing the inner child, trauma from the past. It's not a huge trauma type of coaching. It's just more like, okay, this is where we can go to just kind of raise it up and work through some things. It can be something as easy as, I don't know what to apply to the situation. Every time I meet this person, they drive me crazy. Well, let's figure out what energy is there that drives you crazy and what you can apply in your spiritual belief system to help overcome that. So the next time you see that person, you're not reacting, giving your power away, and you're being responsible for integrating that spiritual life. Through the integration, I find it's important. Sometimes we talk about dreams because that happens from the subconscious. We have 3 levels of consciousness that we're all working with. The subconscious is things that we're not aware of, things that are hidden from us. It deals with our childhood conditioning, all those records that get conditioned from the age to 0 to 3 primarily, and then 0 to 7 are playing in our brains 90% of the time. The other 10% is our conscious mind, which is, I feel amazing and I love everyone. Well, did I do that growing up? Was I taught that? No, maybe not, right? But if that's playing 90% of the time under the current, we have to take a look at that. And then we have to learn how to reprogram that subconscious. So it plays a record, or see, now I'm like definitely letting people know how old I am because I'm talking about a record player here, but it plays.
They're making a comeback.
Okay,
So
cool. Yeah, it plays a record over and over and over again, one that you like instead of something that was formed when you were young. So we look at that aspect, and then we look at the super conscious. So what's your relationship to your higher self? How do you connect to your guides? How do you integrate higher levels of consciousness? So it really depends on where you show up to begin the coaching, what you want to work on, and how we can integrate these things. I've been coaching for over 25 years, and everyone is totally different. I have never used the same protocol for everyone. I have things that I use several times, things that always usually can work. But everybody's different, and everybody changes at a different rate, and everyone works through their issues at a different pace. And so we just take a look at where you are today, where you want to go, and how do we get you there? And I don't actually do anything besides point you back to yourself, you know. But I did work with a teacher for 16 years. I was an apprentice. I worked under someone, and the value of having someone to ask questions to coach, to be like, oh, but what about this piece of enlightened information that could help in this situation? You're like, oh, thank gosh, So it's kind of cool.
No, it does make a difference. And I like the fact that you personalize it to the individual. Mm-hmm. And because I know a lot of people out there, they offer services, but there's more of a cookie cutter, one size fits all, and they want to put you through the hoops. And it reminds me of a little funny video I saw, I think on Facebook or something, and they're referencing quality control. And they have, if you remember those old toys where you have a star and a circle and a rectangle and a triangle, and you have to, select the right shape. It's for toddlers to identify their shapes. And so it's that kind of concept. So, and I can't remember the order, but it's something like the square, and you see the quality control person on the other screen going like, okay, and then this gentleman grabs it and puts it in the right spot. So quality control is like, yeah. And then the next one is the circle. And to make it a long story short, this person starts putting all of the figures in the same slot because somehow they all fit through there. So he wasn't looking for the shapes. He was just wanting to cram everything through that square or whatever one that he selected. And quality control like, no, that's not how it's supposed to work. And there's a lot of people out there that have that mentality. They're like, yeah, well, you probably need help in a triangle shape, but I'm going to fit you in this box because that's what I do. And what comes to my mind, first of all, I don't think we've met in person yet, but I'm tall and skinny, and I've always struggled, especially younger, with finding pants or jeans that fit me. Because if they fit me at the waist, they'd be high waters. They'd be really up high, up my ankles. But then if they fit me lengthwise, I would be like having a hula hoop around me. So they wouldn't fit. And I always struggled, and that's what comes to mind. And that's why I appreciate that personalized coaching, so that you get the right pants that fit you and you don't have to hula hoop or jump puddles like I did when I was growing up. So I think there's value to that. But out of all the modalities that you do, is there something that you can say, this is my passion? Like, I know how to do this, X, Y, and Z, but I'm really passionate about something.
Well, it would be coaching. It would be coaching, yeah, because I have so much experience and so much information. I love to teach. But when you're one-on-one with someone and then you're watching them grow and discover who they are and really get to the other side of whatever their difficulties might be because they're doing the work, that's what I love to help to empower people. And so the coaching aspect is the way that it actually works, because they take what I say, they apply it, and they feel better. And so, well, hopefully they do. I mean, apply it. They'll always feel better if they no. So I think that's it. And, I'm a natural teacher. I love to explain concepts. I love to teach systems. I love for people to learn, and for people, I just want to ignite the flame of higher wisdom in everybody. That's really what I want to do. It's like, ooh, okay, what can be ignited here? What higher wisdom is actually going to help you or the situation or anything? So
I love that. And are you on social media? I know you're in Instagram, I believe. I'm not sure on Facebook, but tell us what your links or your IDs are so that people can contact you through there also.
Yeah. So Instagram, it's Maggie Goddess, pretty easy. And I think Facebook is Maggie JSJ. And so, and they're synced up and linked up. And if you just, search Maggie Clark and Psychic Evolution, you're going to find me.
And I know you have a podcast, and you're the host of Psychic Evolution. What are the days or times, or if I want to tune in, how do I do it?
So it's on all of your major podcast platforms. So Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, whatever it is that you use. And it's also on anchor.fm/psychic evolution. You can find all the episodes. Right now we have about over 50 episodes. We do them in seasons. So we just completed season 3, then we take a month off, and then we go right back. We're going back into season 4 pretty soon. We're changing some of the structure of our podcast. So we are going to be, right now it's just audio, but we're going to be adding video this season. So season 4, when it's released, will be audio and video. We'll put it on YouTube as well. So that's coming, that's in the works. And yeah, it's really cool. And it's one of those podcasts, me and my husband do it together. So we complement each other very well because he's a psychic medium and he trained growing up with his mom, and I do all these other things. So he's never learned tarot, never really picked up a deck until he met me, And so I know all the things that he doesn't know, and he knows all the things that I don't know. So it's not that we know everything, but we know a lot. And so being able to share from different perspectives of how to get to the same place is amazing.
Oh, great. Now, you mentioned that season 4 is coming up, so I'm excited, but I have to catch up. I have 3 seasons to catch up on. Any other major projects you'd like to share with us?
Oh my gosh, I always have a gazillion projects, to be honest with you. I'm in the process of editing a manuscript, and it will be, I haven't even titled it yet because it's in a very raw basic form, but it is what I will use as a premise for spiritual coaching. Like if you didn't want to buy sessions, you could just buy a book. So I'm getting that formatted, going on another writing retreat to finish that up soon. So that's another project. And other than that, gosh, we are going to be creating a supercast for our podcast, which is a membership base for all the things behind the scenes on Psychic Evolution. So we'll have like extra footage and extra audio for the episodes, blooper reels, and we're going to actually start compiling a lot of our classes and put them on there as well. So that's another project that's coming soon. So yeah, and I have another manuscript and another thing, but this is years and years down the road. So I'm always either writing, editing, or preparing for something. So it's a lot of fun.
Oh, but that's a positive energy. And especially because you're not only following your passion or that continuation of the young girl that was in awe and amazed with that tarot and all these initial lessons that you had is still continuing. But also now with all the years of experience and you've grown and you're on the modality of not only being the student, but now sharing all the things that have helped you with others and helping others point them in the right direction, avoid those pitfalls I'm assuming that many beginners might have. So there's a lot of value on that. And, I commend you in that. Get at it. I'm really excited to see your upcoming projects. Now, I don't want to abuse your time because I can chit chat here forever. We can spend a whole afternoon and I'll be fine. But I know you have students and you have classes and you have all these projects. But, the intention of my channel is also, you already gave us 2 of the little stones, and it's to provide the listener or the person that's watching us, the audience, with these stones, which are maybe life hacks, another way of saying it, but things that are easily available to any one of us, but can make a big difference in our life. With that said, if there was one thing that you want to make sure that people don't forget? Like if they forgot about the tarot history or this or whatever it may be, just don't forget this. If this is the one takeaway that you want to make sure you drive home, what would that be?
Well, I think I will give you the other 3 stones that I find important. Okay. So responsibility and commitment were the first 2, but expect the unexpected is another stone. Because if you are able to flow with life, you're going to be a lot happier. And then another stone is patience is faith applied. So got to have patience. And that's all about you having faith in yourself. So, and because it's going to take a lot of work to get to where you're going, you know, and it even after you reach knowing yourself, it's limitless. And the last little stone is creativity is passion in motion. Anything that you're passionate about is creative energy, and all creative energy is divine. So
thank you for sharing those with us. And instead of stones, we should call them pebbles of gold, because that's gold material right there.
But that'll defeat any giant, right? Any giant.
Yes, or at least the ones that might confront you. And if they can take those stones, come back, because we got more. we got more ammo, right? Yeah. Maggie, I want to thank you so much for making the time out of your busy day. I know you have a lot of commitments, a lot of work. You're constantly in motion. And first of all, thank you, because not only you're sharing your knowledge with myself and the audience, but I'm really excited to get to know you a little bit more, and I can't wait to meet you in person. This is your house. You're always welcome to this channel. I hope this is not the last interview, because you have all those interesting topics that we need to get more from you. Like this can't stay just like that.
Awesome. Anytime.
But yeah, I'm excited to have you back sometime whenever you're ready. And any last words before to end the show today?
Oh, I could keep going. I guess I could. Well, here's one that you could think about. The soul has 2 jobs in any lifetime. The first job is to find itself, and the second job is to be what you find. So, there you go.
I like that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
It's been a pleasure. Stay in touch and give that Jamie Clark dude a hug from my behalf, and another one for you.
I will.
I'll talk to you soon. Thank you for being
Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. See you soon. Bye.